Hey guys, tonight we're cracking open a frothy, fizzy mystery that's older, weirder, and somehow more caffeinated than any true crime podcast. The tale of Dr. Pepper, the soda that once proudly bragged about being energizing because, well, it was laced with opium extracts. Yes, that Dr. Pepper, the one your grandma still calls a treat and your uncle mixes with whiskey. Before you get too comfortable, take a second to like this video and subscribe. But only if you actually enjoy this kind of chaotic bedtime history. Leave a comment telling me your favorite weird soda flavor or the most suspicious thing you've ever willingly drunk from a gas station. Now, dim the lights, put on your fan, get that perfect blanket burrito situation going. Maybe grab a drink. Ideally not one brewed in 1885 by a man with too much access to morphine. But let's pause for a second. How did we end up with a soda that once flirted with narcotics? Who was Dr. Pepper? And why was he bottling something that could technically make you both alert and asleep at the same time? How many patients walked into his pharmacy for a prescription and walked out feeling like they could see sound? Did anyone ever actually meet a sober pharmacist in the 1800s? And most importantly, what was in that 23-flavor cocktail that made half of Texas believe they were immortal? Congratulations, you've just woken up in Waco, Texas. In 1885, the air smells like sawdust, horse sweat, and whatever is leaking from the corner of your pharmacist's experimental syrup vat. You're about to meet the man, the myth, and the medically concerning beverage, Dr. Pepper. You step outside onto a dirt street, buzzing with flies, sermons, and unlicensed experiments. Waco, in 1885, is a frontier town where medicine means whatever doesn't kill you immediately. Pharmacies double as soda fountains, gossip hubs, and occasionally opium dens with better branding. The air smells like hot wood, horses, and ambition. Somewhere nearby, a preacher is yelling about sin, and two cowboys are arguing about whose snake oil cured their rheumatism faster. The dust sticks to your teeth as a wagon creaks past. Advertising, elixir of life, now with less mercury. It's the Old West's version of a health food store. Slightly poisonous, but deeply committed to the aesthetic. Waco is small but loud. The clatter of hooves competes with the whir of hand-cranked fans in every shop. People stroll down the main street in heavy clothes that smell faintly of mothballs and medical-grade peppermint. At every corner, you pass a sign promising tonic for weak nerves, cordial for the liver, or guaranteed cure for ennui. If your stomach hurts, there's a potion for that. If your soul hurts, there's a stronger one. You wander into Morrison's old corner drugstore, the beating heart of Waco's chemical optimism. Inside, the room hums like a beehive of glass, bottles, brass fixtures, and the faint pop of carbonation. Behind the counter, a man in a waistcoat is shaking something that looks like swamp water into a glass and calling it medicine. No one seems alarmed. You shouldn't be either. This is normal here. Every shelf gleams with bottles of dubious comfort. Laudanum for sleeplessness, coca wine for low spirits, cough syrup with enough morphine to make you forget you ever had lungs. You realize quickly that in 1885, pharmacy is just the polite word for controlled chaos in a vest. This is the world Charles Alderton walks into each morning. A young British-born pharmacist with a flair for chemistry and a high tolerance for fumes. He spends his days mixing syrups, adjusting labels, and wondering why half the customers walk out both cured and cross-eyed. He's not just a man of science, he's a man of improvisation. And in Waco, improvisation is science. There are no regulations, no Food and Drug Administration, no pesky concept of dosage. It's all vibes. If it tastes bad but works, it's medicine. If it tastes good and makes you forget your arthritis, it's a miracle. You can't get sued if everyone's equally confused. Step back outside and look around. The whole town runs on contradiction. There's the Baptist church on one side, preaching abstinence from sin, and the barbershop next door offering shots of tonic whiskey for moral clarity. Across the street, a man sells cough drops that smell suspiciously like opium resin. A horse sneezes, and someone nearby mutters, "Get that animal a dose of cod liver oil." The nights here are worse. Thick air, oil lamps flickering, and the hum of restless energy. You can hear the distant pop of soda bottles opening, followed by laughter, coughing, and the occasional, "Is anyone else seeing colors?" People aren't just living, they're experimenting with existence, one glass at a time. You can't help but admire the audacity. No one knows what's safe, but everyone's convinced they've found salvation in a bottle. They're drinking science, faith, and whatever Alderton just accidentally invented. It's chaos with a cherry on top. Waco in 1885 doesn't just set the stage for Dr. Pepper, it embodies it. The optimism, the recklessness, the belief that you can solve any problem by carbonating it. You start to realize that this isn't a story about one man making a drink. It's a story about an entire town so desperate for comfort that it turned chemistry into culture. You lean against the wooden post outside the pharmacy, watching the sunset bleed across the sky like spilled syrup. The street glows gold. The air smells of sugar and dust. Somewhere inside, Alderton is tinkering with another batch, and the faint hiss of bubbles whispers the start of something absurdly historic. You take a deep breath, careful not to inhale too much laudanum vapor, and think, this is how every great American invention begins. Not with science, not with reason, but with a pharmacist, a handful of bottles, and a wild guess that maybe, just maybe, this one won't kill anyone. And that's the kind of faith only a frontier town like Waco could bottle. Charles Alderton is the kind of man who looks at a shelf of cough syrups and says, "You know what this needs? Gas." He's a British-born pharmacist with a mustache full of ambition and possibly tonic residue. He spends his days in Morrison's old corner drugstore, a place that smells like someone carbonated a forest fire. Behind the soda counter, glass bottles glint in the sunlight, each filled with mysterious liquids in cheerful shades of danger. The sound of hissing gas, clinking glass, and murmuring customers creates a rhythm, one that could almost be called peaceful, if you ignored the occasional explosion of tonic foam. Alderton is 20-something, rail-thin, and perpetually over-caffeinated. His shirt sleeves are rolled up, his vest spotted with syrup, and his hair sticking up like he's recently been electrocuted, which, given his proximity to early carbonation equipment, isn't impossible. He came to Texas chasing opportunity, or perhaps fleeing supervision, no one is sure which. Every day, he serves up phosphates and nerve tonics to Waco's finest, dusty ranchers, suspicious widows, and overworked preachers. They shuffle up to the counter complaining about headaches, heartbreak, or an overall lack of enthusiasm for being alive. Charles listens politely, then hands them something sweet, fizzy, and vaguely narcotic. They leave, smiling. Mission accomplished. You can imagine him now, wiping the counter with a rag that's seen too much, listening to the steady hiss of the carbonation tank behind him. He's surrounded by dozens of syrup bottles. Cherry, vanilla, sassafras, licorice, the scent so strong you could probably hallucinate from it. It's both intoxicating and exhausting. You'd think working in a pharmacy would make a man cautious, but Alderton seems to view poison and flavor as synonyms. At this point in history, pharmacy is less about healing and more about entertainment with side effects. A good pharmacist is equal parts chemist, therapist, and bartender. Charles fills all three roles seamlessly. He listens to Waco's woes by day, then experiments by night, chasing that perfect combination of taste and tingle. If this were modern times, he'd be the kind of guy brewing his own kombucha and insisting it could replace your antidepressants. His workspace is a chaos of glass and optimism. Every evening when the crowd thins, he tinkers, adjusting ratios, adding new syrups, jotting down mysterious notes like less licorice, more sparkle. Occasionally, something hisses ominously. Occasionally, something explodes. But mostly, something fizzes in a way that makes him grin like he's discovered fire. Imagine the scene. The gas lamp flickers, the room glows amber, and Alderton leans over a bubbling glass, like a mad scientist who also sells cherry cough drops. He adds a drop of this, a dash of that, and takes a sip. His eyes widen, his hand trembles slightly. It's not just good, it's alive. He doesn't know it yet. But this is the first spark of what will become Dr. Pepper. But Alderton isn't dreaming of fame. He's just trying to make something interesting. Something that cuts through the monotony of endless syrups and complaints. He's motivated not by greed or glory, but by boredom and mild chemical curiosity, which, historically, have powered most great inventions and at least half of humanity's bad decisions. People start noticing. The locals come in asking for that weird drink the Englishman makes. They can't describe it. They just know it tastes like all the candy from childhood, melted together and blessed by caffeine. Alderton nods politely, pours another glass, and quietly wonders if this is how addiction starts. By now, he's running on fumes, literal and metaphorical. His long days are spent serving respectable medicine, his nights lost to experiments. His fingers are stained with syrup. His apron smells like caramelized ambition. He hasn't slept properly in weeks, but he doesn't seem to mind. He's found something more potent than rest, the thrill of creation. In the strange laboratory of the 1880s American South, Charles Alderton becomes the unintentional alchemist of modern soda culture, a man with no grand plan, just an instinct that life should taste better, and possibly buzz a little more. And as the night deepens and another batch bubbles quietly on the counter, you can almost hear the fizz whispering through the still air. Something's happening here. He'll never patent it. He'll never become rich from it. But he'll change the way America drinks forever. All because one overworked, underqualified pharmacist decided to carbonate chaos. Inside Morrison's old corner drugstore, the air hums with the scent of peppermint, licorice, and regret. The soda fountain bubbles like a cauldron, while Alderton mixes concoctions that could either cure your headache or give you a small vision quest. The walls are lined with dark wooden shelves, each one cluttered with amber bottles whose labels read like riddles. Tincture of sarsaparilla, extract of quinine, laudanum. Some of the jars contain mysterious powders that look like cinnamon but smell like taxidermy. The floor creaks under your boots, and the air tastes faintly of syrup and salvation. If OSHA existed, it would have fainted. This isn't just a pharmacy, it's the 19th century version of a tech startup. Messy, unregulated, and running entirely on caffeine and overconfidence. You can practically hear the ghost of common sense whispering, "Don't drink that." But in Waco, the line between medicine and misadventure is thinner than Alderton's mustache. At the front, Wade Morrison, part druggist, part salesman, full-time, opportunist, greets customers with the enthusiasm of a man who could sell snake oil to a snake. He wipes his hands on his apron, gestures grandly toward the soda fountain, and says, "We make refreshments for the body and remedies for the soul," which sounds poetic until you realize both come from the same sticky counter. The soda fountain itself is the pride of the shop, a gleaming contraption of brass levers and hissing pipes that looks like someone welded a church organ to a teapot. It's where science and customer service collide, often explosively. Alderton stands behind it like a priest at an altar, mixing flavored syrups into sparkling water with a level of focus that suggests he's either inventing the future or summoning it. People don't come here just for medicine. They come for the ritual. You sit on a high stool, elbows on the cool marble, waiting while Charles Alderton measures syrup by eye, which, given his eyesight, is a bold move. He pumps cherry, adds a dash of licorice, maybe a drop of something that smells like shoe polish. The carbonation hisses. The glass froths. He slides it across to you with a tired smile and says, "Drink up," and you do, because everyone does. Because this is Waco in 1885. And if it's bubbling, it must be good for you. Never mind that it might contain enough morphine to tranquilize a horse. If it tingles on your tongue, it must be working. The regulars call the place the corner, though it's less a corner and more an ecosystem. In one seat, a cowboy with dust on his hat is nursing something fizzy and muttering about land deeds. Next to him, a schoolteacher stirs her glass like she's divining the future. In the back, a preacher sips nervously from a bottle labeled stomach bitters, which is 40% alcohol and 60% denial. Every sound in the shop has texture. The hiss of soda gas, the tinkle of glasses, the low murmur of men discussing cattle and God. Somewhere behind the counter, Alderton drops something that shatters, mutters an apology, and keeps mixing. There's always a hum, the quiet rhythm of a world trying to believe that modernity has arrived, one bubble at a time. The funny part is, nobody really knows what's in these drinks. Recipes are trade secrets, jealously guarded and occasionally made up on the spot. Ingredients arrive by train in crates labeled "for medicinal use only," which is 19th century code for "don't ask too many questions." Some syrups are made from fruit, others are made from bark, herbs, or whatever Alderton accidentally spilled in yesterday. But that's the beauty of it. The pharmacy is an experiment, not an establishment. Every glass poured is a gamble. Will it taste amazing? Will it knock you out for 2 days? The thrill is half the medicine. And yet, amid the chaos, there's something deeply human about this place. People aren't here just for a cure, they're here for connection. The soda counter is where strangers share gossip, laughter, and the occasional hallucination. It's where science meets hope and produces something fizzy enough to believe in. As the evening rolls in, the lamps flicker, and Alderton keeps working, sleeves rolled, eyes bright. He's chasing that perfect balance, the flavor that will make people stop talking mid-sip, something that feels alive, something that hums with mystery. You watch him pour another glass, his hands steady despite the caffeine coursing through his veins. Behind him, the shelves glow in the lamplight, rows of potions and promises. The whole room feels like it's holding its breath, because in this little corner of Waco, in a shop that smells like licorice and destiny, a man is about to stumble into history. And no one, least of all him, has any idea how big the bubbles are about to get. One night, Alderton starts blending syrups like a Victorian DJ. Cinnamon, cherry, cola nut, prune juice, maybe something that used to be a flower. He tastes it. His pupils dilate. He's done it. Created something both delicious and mildly concerning. It's late. The kind of late where the lamps burn low, the floorboards creak, and your brain starts narrating your own thoughts. The shop is quiet except for the occasional pop of a carbonation tank and the gentle fizz of gas escaping from a leaky valve. Outside, the Texas night hums with crickets. And inside, a tired young pharmacist decides he's going to reinvent happiness. He's surrounded by chaos. Dozens of half-empty bottles, sticky counters, and a lingering sweetness in the air that could probably attract bees from 3 counties away. Alderton's been chasing the perfect blend for weeks. A drink that doesn't just taste good, but feels good. The kind of flavor that makes you straighten your spine and go, "Wait, what was that?" His method is pure madness. But it's organized madness. He lines up bottles like an orchestra, each labeled with some grand Victorian promise. Essence of sarsaparilla, tincture of almond, extract of cola nut, oil of vanilla. He dips a metal spoon into one, stirs another, sniffs, frowns, and mutters to himself like a man both haunted and caffeinated. There's no recipe, just instinct, and maybe divine intervention. 1 dash too many of clove, and the drink tastes like Christmas in a coffin. Too much vanilla, and it's a melted candle. But tonight, something clicks. The balance is perfect. The sweetness dances just above bitter, the spice lingers without biting. And there's an aftertaste that makes him feel slightly euphoric. He leans back, glass in hand, staring at the ceiling like he's just seen God, and discovered that God is carbonated. His assistant, a young clerk, half asleep on a sack of flour, asks what it tastes like. Alderton blinks, takes another sip, and says, "I have no idea." But it's incredible. You can imagine him pacing the room, glass in hand, muttering flavor names like an incantation. Cinnamon, cherry, vanilla, almond, maybe licorice. Something fruity but not fruit, spicy but not heat, complex but not confusing. He's describing the impossible, and somehow he's holding it. Now, it's important to understand that in 1885, flavor experimentation was the culinary equivalent of skydiving without a parachute. Every syrup was handmade, every measurement eyeballed. One wrong move, and your tonic turned into furniture polish. But Alderton, armed with equal parts curiosity and caffeine, manages to find that mythical balance point between refreshing and mildly addictive. He pours another glass, this time for Wade Morrison, the shop's owner. Morrison takes a sip, raises his eyebrows, and for a full 10 seconds says nothing. Then he grins, wipes his moustache, and says the most Texan thing imaginable, "Tastes like money." That's when it begins. Customers start whispering about the new drink, the one that's darker, sharper, fizzier, the one that wakes you up without knocking to you out. They don't have a name for it yet, but they know it's something special. It's like cola, but not cola. Like root beer, but not quite. It's something else, and soon people are coming in just to taste it. A few sips of mystery in a glass. A chemical riddle disguised as refreshment. Alderton doesn't write down the recipe because, like all accidental geniuses, he assumes he'll remember it. He won't, which is why to this day no one knows exactly what the original 23 flavors were. Historians have tried to reverse engineer it, sniffing, analyzing, sipping, but the formula remains as elusive as ever. Vanilla? Check. Cherry? Probably. Amaretto? Possibly. Regret? Almost certainly. Whatever it is, it's balanced so perfectly that it crosses the line from beverage into experience. As Alderton leans against the counter, watching the bubbles rise in the lamplight, he probably doesn't realize what he's done. He's not thinking about brands, fame, or soda empires. He's just thinking, this tastes right. And maybe that's what makes it magic. No focus groups, no marketing teams, just one overworked pharmacist, a dozen mystery bottles, and a wild hunch that the human tongue deserved a new adventure. He doesn't know it yet, but he's just invented one of the strangest, most enduring drinks in history. A potion of spice and sweetness that will outlive him by centuries. The first sip of something legendary. A drink that started, like all the best ideas, as a beautiful mistake. In the quiet of the shop, he raises his glass one last time. The bubbles hiss softly, like they're whispering the future. And for the briefest moment, you could almost believe the legend that somewhere in that glass of 23 flavors, Alderton bottled the feeling of being alive. Wade Morrison, the store owner, tastes Alderton's drink and immediately decides it's the next big thing. He's not sure what's in it, but it makes him feel like he could sell a horse twice. Morrison isn't a pharmacist, not really. He's a businessman who happens to sell medicine. And by medicine, we mean anything that fizzes, tingles, or distracts people from the crushing realization that they live in 19th century Texas. He's got charm, a neatly combed mustache, and the kind of confidence that only comes from having no idea what you're doing but doing it loudly. He was born to sell things. The man could probably sell ice to a blacksmith or snake oil to an actual snake. And when he sees Alderton's new concoction, he doesn't taste it as a beverage. He tastes it as a brand. It's sweet, mysterious, and slightly addictive. Everything a small-town businessman dreams of. The first sip sends a spark through him. His eyes widen. His fingers tap the counter. You can almost see the gears turning in his head. This isn't just another soda. This is the one. The drink that'll have folks queuing out the door, coins clinking in his register, and competitors gnashing their teeth in jealousy. "Charles," he says, grinning, "you've just made my fortune." Alderton, still holding a sticky spoon, blinks in confusion. "I made a drink." "Exactly," Morrison replies, "and I'm going to sell it to everyone who can still stand upright." He's not exaggerating. Within days, he's pushing the drink on every customer who walks in. Farmers, teachers, traveling salesmen, even the town doctor who claims it invigorates the blood. Morrison beams behind the counter, handing out glasses of the mystery syrup like a preacher spreading the gospel of carbonation. The shop transforms overnight. The soda fountain becomes Waco's social nerve center. People gather around, slurping and gossiping, their energy levels climbing by the minute. You've got cowboys debating flavor notes like wine critics, housewives insisting it settles the nerves, teenagers daring each other to drink 3 in a row. And Morrison, ever the showman, leans into it. He starts calling the drink the Waco. It's catchy, simple, and vague enough to sound both local and legendary. He doesn't care what's in it, cinnamon, prune, maybe unicorn extract, as long as it sells. His secret weapon isn't the formula, it's his performance. He doesn't just pour drinks, he performs them. He grabs the bottle with a flourish, fills the glass with a hiss and a sparkle, slides it across the marble counter like it's a poker chip. Customers don't just get a beverage, they get a show. The more people drink, the more they want it. The buzz isn't just from the caffeine or the possible trace narcotics, it's from the atmosphere. Morrison's soda fountain becomes the heartbeat of Waco, a place where the air smells of sugar and ambition. Of course, being a hustler, Morrison immediately starts thinking bigger. He imagines the Waco bottled, shipped, sold in every town from Dallas to New Orleans. He dreams of posters, slogans, maybe even fame. In the age before viral marketing, he's basically invented influencer culture, minus the ring light, plus the opium tincture. But there's one small problem. Alderton isn't interested in fame or fortune. He just likes mixing things. The thought of turning his recipe into a business exhausts him. So Morrison does what every self-respecting hustler would do. He quietly takes over. Soon Morrison's the face of the drink. He's shaking hands, charming investors, whispering about a new kind of beverage sweeping Texas. People start calling it Morrison's elixir, which annoys Charles but not enough for him to stop it. After all, he's still got his syrups and his science. And Morrison's got whatever you call unrelenting ambition mixed with a faint disregard for ethics. You can almost admire it. In a world where everyone's hawking miracle tonics and vitality pills, Morrison is selling something that actually tastes good, a miracle in itself. He's not the kind of man to get lost in the chemistry of creation. He's too busy counting how many nickels he can get per glass. And while Charles Alderton will fade into history's footnotes, Wade Morrison's name, or at least his hustle, will echo through the ages. Because sometimes it's not the inventor who wins. It's the guy who realizes that if it makes you feel like you can sell a horse twice, it'll probably sell itself. As the lamps flicker and the shop fills with chatter, Morrison wipes down the counter, pockets the day's earnings, and looks satisfied. Behind him, Alderton's still experimenting, lost in the fizz and foam of discovery. But Morrison? He's already thinking of tomorrow, and how to make the Waco sound even more like destiny in a bottle. No one knows for sure who Dr. Pepper was, possibly an old love interest's father, possibly an actual doctor, possibly just a good marketing lie. What's certain is that Doctor made people trust it, and Pepper sounded healthy-ish. It's one of history's finest branding mysteries. A drink that wasn't invented by a doctor, sold in a pharmacy, and contained enough caffeine to make your heart file for overtime, yet somehow convinced the nation it was medicinal. In the 19th century, attaching doctor to anything instantly made it sound respectable. Doctor meant safety, professionalism, and the vague promise that whatever you were about to ingest had been approved by someone wearing a monocle. The truth, though, is fuzzy. The way most things in Waco were after your third glass of the stuff. Some say the drink was named after Dr. Recce. Charles Pepper, a Virginia physician and father of a woman Wade Morrison once adored. The story goes that young Morrison fell hopelessly in love, was rejected, or possibly fired, and later slapped the man's name on a soda out of nostalgia, revenge, or emotional confusion. Imagine being so heartbroken you brand your entire business after your ex-girlfriend's dad. That's not marketing, that's therapy. Other historians shrug and say, maybe it just sounded good. After all, Dr. Morrison didn't exactly roll off the tongue, and Alderton's elixir sounded like something you'd rub on your chest during a smallpox outbreak. Dr. Pepper, though, that had rhythm. It felt zesty, smart, and faintly British. Like something that might both refresh you and scold you for slouching. In 1885, branding was still a new concept. There were no agencies, no focus groups, no taglines crafted in glass boardrooms. You named your product after whatever made people stop coughing long enough to buy it. Doctor implied healing, Pepper implied spice, and together they promised energy, or, as Victorians called it, pep. Yes, pep, as in pep up your constitution, the polite ancestor of get hyped. The word choice wasn't accidental. Morrison didn't have psychology degrees, but he understood one thing. People wanted to feel better, faster, and preferably with bubbles. And there's something beautifully ironic about it. The name Dr. Pepper suggests medicine, but what it actually delivered was a sugar rush and a mild existential awakening. People lined up not because it cured anything, but because it made life feel briefly manageable. And that's what real magic looks like. Not science, but sensation. Of course, because this is history, the name didn't stay simple for long. Some claimed there was no Dr. Pepper at all, that it was a clever invention meant to cash in on America's obsession with doctor-approved tonics. At the time, everything from toothpaste to whiskey claimed to be recommended by doctors. One popular ad literally read, "Endorsed by 9 out of 10 physicians, probably." if you wanted to sell to the masses. Slapping doctor on your label was the 19th century equivalent of saying clinically tested, which naturally meant tested on your uncle once. Morrison likely realized this and leaned into it. The doctor gave the drink an air of legitimacy. The pepper gave it warmth. Together, they created a brand that sounded like someone who'd lecture you about your diet and refill your glass before you could protest. It struck the perfect tone between respectable and rebellious. The funny thing is, nobody really cared who Dr. Pepper was. The mystery became part of the myth. Newspapers ran speculative stories. Customers whispered theories over the soda counter. Was he real? Was he rich? Did he know his name had been attached to a legal stimulant sold in Texas? Nobody knew. And that uncertainty, that playful ambiguity, kept people hooked. It made the drink feel like an inside joke that the whole country was in on. Decades later, when Dr. Pepper became a national sensation, the company leaned into the confusion rather than clearing it up. They never confirmed or denied the existence of a real Dr. Pepper, choosing instead to let the mystery bubble along. A marketing strategy that modern PR teams would envy. It turned out that people don't want facts. They want folklore, and so the name stuck. Not because it was true, but because it felt true. Dr. Pepper sounded trustworthy enough to drink daily and strange enough to remember forever. It carried a whiff of authority and a pinch of whimsy, the perfect combination for a world still half convinced that happiness came in a bottle. So next time you crack open a can and that familiar hiss greets you, remember this: you're not drinking a soda named after a doctor. You're drinking a love story, a rumor, and a marketing gamble that worked far better than it should have. Because in the end, Dr. Pepper didn't need a real doctor. It just needed a good story. And like all good stories, it's been keeping people awake ever since. Here's the thing. 19th century medicine was basically a legal drug buffet. Coca-Cola had cocaine, tonics had morphine, and Alderton's fizzy brew likely had traces of opium derivatives to soothe the nerves. And soothe it did. In the age before the FDA, or basic self-restraint, medicine was more about vibes than verified results. If it made you feel different, that counted as progress. Every pharmacist was a sort of part-time alchemist, part-time pusher. You could walk into a corner drugstore with a cough and walk out with a bottle of nerve tonic strong enough to make you forget you ever had lungs. Opium, in particular, was the star of the show. It wasn't scandalous, it was sensible. Doctors prescribed it for everything: headaches, menstrual pain, toothaches, bad moods, overexcitement, underexcitement, and occasionally just to make people stop talking. Parents gave it to teething babies. Traveling salesmen sold it from wagons labeled miracle elixir. Entire families were unknowingly high together, sitting around the dinner table thinking, wow, life suddenly feels tolerable. So it's no surprise that Alderton's original recipe, the one bubbling away in that soda fountain in Waco, may have included an opium derivative. After all, most of his competitors were doing it. Soothing syrups, restorative elixirs, vitality beverages, they all owed their soothing to a little poppy flower that had conquered both medicine and manners. Imagine sipping your afternoon soda in 1885. The bubbles tingle, the sweetness hits, and within minutes you're calm, focused, maybe even enlightened. You're not just refreshed, you're transcendent. It wasn't just a drink, it was therapy, sedation, and enlightenment in one glass. The best part? It was perfectly legal. The advertising made it sound downright wholesome. For tired nerves and weary souls, one paper might say, beside an illustration of a woman reclining gracefully with a parasol. The reality? She was probably taking the edge off with a syrup that could knock out a horse. But hey, it worked. To modern ears, this sounds absurd. But remember, In the 1800s, pain management meant try not to die. Surgery was done without anesthetic, childbirth without epidurals, and daily life without Netflix. When your day consisted of shoveling coal, herding cattle, or surviving Texas humidity in wool clothing, a little soothing syrup was practically a civil right. And pharmacists like Alderton knew the game. They weren't trying to create addicts. They were trying to create relief. If the relief came with side effects like bliss or hallucinating colors you'd never seen before, well, who was complaining? The 19th century was too busy enjoying the high to worry about the crash. There's a quiet poetry to it, really. The same drink that would later be marketed as energizing probably began its life as a way to take the edge off a bad day. A contradiction in a bottle, equal parts stimulant and sedative, designed for a world that hadn't yet figured out work-life balance, but desperately needed both. By the time Dr. Pepper hit its stride, America was hooked, not just on Alderton's fizzy creation, but on the entire idea of chemical comfort. Every ailment, from melancholy to mild existential dread, could be managed with a spoonful of something sweet and suspicious. And the beauty of soda was that it disguised the medicine. The bitterness was gone. All that remained was the pleasure. Picture the scene. A cowboy walks into Morrison's drugstore after a long day under the Texas Sunday. He orders a glass of the mysterious Waco. He takes a sip. His shoulders loosen. His headache vanishes. He smiles faintly and says, "That's the good doctor's work." He doesn't know which doctor. No one does. But it doesn't matter. Faith has bubbles now. Eventually, of course, reformers and medical boards would start asking uncomfortable questions. Why are people falling asleep mid-conversation? Why are babies so quiet after Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup? Why do all these remedies make the user want to write poetry about clouds? But in 1885, those questions hadn't arrived yet. The soda fountains flowed freely, and the world was blissfully ignorant and slightly buzzed. The irony is delicious. A drink that began as a mild narcotic would evolve into one of the most famous caffeine brands in the world. From downer to upper. From soothing tonic to get through the day fuel. Humanity didn't change. We just switched directions on the chemical highway. So, next time you crack open a can of Dr. Pepper, listen closely to the fizz. Somewhere in that sound is a whisper from the past. A reminder of the time when medicine was magic, science was chaos, and feeling a bit better came with a side of opium. And maybe that's the most human thing of all. We'll always find a way to doctor our pain, even if the doctor is entirely made up. Everyone in 1885 is exhausted from the heat, from cholera, from having to churn butter by hand. Pick-me-ups are all the rage. And people will drink anything that promises relief from their existential fatigue. You can't really blame them. Life in the 19th century is like playing hard mode without save points. The average person wakes up before dawn, milks something, kills something, sweats profusely, and spends the rest of the day fighting both boredom and bacteria. There's no air conditioning, no caffeine on demand. And if you catch a cold, your doctor's best advice is to drink mercury and think positive. Naturally, everyone is tired. Physically, spiritually, cosmically tired. Enter the age of tonics, elixirs, and wellness beverages. This is the Victorian answer to self-care. You can't meditate. There's cholera in the river. You can't take a spa day. That's just a bucket and a sponge. So you turn to the next best thing. Liquid salvation in a bottle. The advertisements are everywhere, screaming from newspapers and handbills. Revitalize your nerves, cure melancholy instantly. Add years to your life, results may vary. Every city street corner boasts a new cure. each with names that sound suspiciously poetic and vaguely untrustworthy. Dr. Langley's electric tonic, Professor Wilson's invigorating cordial, Mrs. Fletcher's life-restoring syrup. They're all variations on the same promise. Drink this, and you'll stop feeling like you're dying slowly inside. But here's the catch. Most of these pick-me-ups are just cocktails of alcohol, cocaine, morphine, and caffeine. The holy trinity of the Victorian lifestyle. They're the 19th century equivalent of energy drinks, except they actually worked. For a few hours, you'd feel unstoppable, focused, euphoric, possibly vibrating. Then you'd crash into a melancholic abyss and start the cycle again. In the middle of this cultural caffeine rush sits the soda fountain, the original wellness bar, a strange blend of pharmacy and cafe. It's where people gather not for conversation, but for chemical enlightenment. The local pharmacist is half scientist, half bartender, doling out fizzy salvation one glass at a time. You sidle up to the marble counter, slump on a stool, and mutter, "I just can't seem to get my energy back." The man behind the counter nods knowingly. The same nod your modern barista gives when you say, "Make it a double espresso." He pumps a few shots of syrup, adds soda water, and hands you a glass that smells like Christmas and possibility. You take a sip, the bubbles tickle your tongue, the sugar hits your veins. The opium derivative hugs your soul. You feel awake. And just like that, you're hooked. You don't think of it as an addiction. It's self-improvement. It's the Victorian version of clean eating. Never mind that half the ingredients are hallucinogenic, and the other half could probably remove paint. If it makes you feel better, it's medicine. Even high society gets in on the craze. Aristocrats sip nerve restoratives at garden parties, while fainting couches become the era's most popular furniture item. Housewives keep bottles of ladies' tonic hidden behind lace doilies, claiming it's for fatigue. Which, technically, it is, if you define fatigue as having to endure reality. Newspapers start printing testimonials. "I was tired for 30 years, one woman writes. But after 3 glasses of Dr. Fairchild's vitalizing cordial, I danced until dawn and saw the face of God in my wallpaper." Nobody questions it. Nobody wants to. The Victorians didn't have science as we know it. They had hope and syrup. Of course, there's an irony to all this. The wellness craze wasn't about getting healthy. It was about surviving the day. People weren't chasing enlightenment. They were chasing energy, clarity, and maybe a few hours of not feeling like their bodies were made of wet laundry. Sound familiar? Because if you squint, not much has changed. Modern wellness influencers just replaced morphine with matcha and laudanum with adaptogens. The slogans are still the same. Boost your energy. Clear your mind. Drink this mysterious substance and transcend. Capitalism. The ingredients might be different, but the dream is eternal. To feel better than your circumstances allow. Back in Waco, as Alderton perfects his 23-flavor masterpiece, he's unknowingly bottling that same yearning. Dr. Pepper isn't just a soda, it's the Victorian wellness craze distilled. Comfort, energy, optimism, and maybe a touch of mild chemical dependency, all fizzing together in one glass. As the lamplight flickers across Morrison's old corner drugstore, you can almost feel the pulse of it, this collective exhaustion disguised as progress. The world is tired, yes, but it refuses to rest. It would rather drink its way through history. And so, with every sip of Dr. Pepper, every fizzy promise of pep and vigor, the Victorian people do what humans have always done best. They medicate their despair with hope and call it wellness. Dr. Pepper is sold as a brain tonic, a vitality drink, and possibly a substitute for an actual nap. It's advertised as the gentleman's way to restore vigor, which is code for get mildly high in public. It's the late 1880s, and America is buzzing, literally. Every pharmacy from Waco to New York is peddling some kind of miracle elixir, and every one of them claims to make you feel young again, banish melancholy, or invigorate the blood. The ads promise more energy, better digestion, and the occasional spiritual awakening. And because no one can Google side effects, people believe every word. Dr. Pepper's marketing fits perfectly into this world of glossy exaggeration. Wade Morrison, always the opportunist, sees his fizzy creation not as a beverage, but as a lifestyle. He begins spreading the gospel of Dr. Pepper with the passion of a man selling salvation, or possibly snake oil. It's not just a drink, he insists. It's medicine, and not just any medicine, it's a doctor in a bottle. The pitch is genius. The doctor in the name does all the heavy lifting. You don't have to trust the ingredients. You just have to trust the title. In an era when people still fainted for fun, and most medical advice came from men who thought germs were a rumor, that prefix was pure gold. Why pay for a doctor when you can drink one for 5 cents a glass? The posters are everywhere. Elegant ladies sipping their tonic with angelic smiles. Mustached men looking revitalized and ready to wrestle a bear. For brain and body, the slogan declares. A temperance drink, meaning it's not alcoholic, which makes it moral. Never mind that it might still contain trace opiates and enough sugar to light up your nervous system like a telegraph wire. You start to see Dr. Pepper ads in shop windows, train stations, even church bulletins. The drink is sold as a remedy for fatigue and a cure for sluggishness. One newspaper ad goes so far as to claim it builds nerve tissue and restores youthful elasticity, which sounds suspiciously like something you'd hear on a modern wellness podcast. Imagine being a customer back then. You've spent your day hauling lumber or dodging tuberculosis, and now someone hands you a glass of fizzy brown mystery liquid that makes your heart race and your mood skyrocket. Would you care what's in it? Absolutely not. You'd slap your nickel on the counter, chug it down, and declare, "By golly, that's doctor's orders." The beauty of Morrison's strategy is that he doesn't just sell a product, he sells an identity. Drinking Dr. Pepper becomes a mark of sophistication, a symbol that you're not some whiskey-chugging cowboy. You're civilized, refined. You drink your medicine from a marble counter, not a saloon glass. It's the 19th century equivalent of clean caffeine. And the marketing doesn't stop at health. It leans into modernity. In an era terrified of change, Dr. Pepper becomes the drink of progress. Advertisements show factory workers, clerks, and students all smiling like they've just discovered joy in liquid form. It's scientifically prepared, the posters say, as if that means anything. Science in 1885 mostly means a man with goggles and a dream, but it sounds reassuring. The irony is thick. Dr. Pepper's early ads claim it will sharpen your mind, soothe your nerves, and make you a more efficient human being. The exact symptoms of caffeine addiction in reverse. But nobody questions it, because in a century obsessed with self-improvement, any product that makes you feel something instantly becomes moral, medical, and miraculous. Of course, Morrison knows that miracles alone won't pay the bills, so he leans into the theater of it all. The posters feature bright red lettering, dramatic fonts, and slogans dripping with confidence. Drink a bite to eat, king of beverages. There's life in every drop, which, if you've read the ingredient list, might be true, though perhaps not the kind of life you want living in your bloodstream. Even the soda fountain becomes part of the performance. Morrison trains his clerks to pour with flair, to hand customers their glass like it's communion. And, in a way, it is. You're not just drinking a soda. You're drinking the dream of a modern, invigorated America, one bubble at a time. People believe in it. They crave it. They evangelize it. Housewives tell their neighbors it restored their constitution. Office clerks swear it helped them focus. Students say it made studying delightful. No one realizes they're all just describing the universal effects of caffeine, sugar, and self-delusion. By the turn of the century, Dr. Pepper isn't just a drink anymore, it's a movement. The tonic craze has made it respectable, the caffeine has made it popular, and the mystery has made it irresistible. It's not medicine, it's mythology. And the best part? No one's sure who's the doctor here. Alderton, Morrison, or the drink itself. But as long as it keeps people awake, happy, and slightly overconfident, no one's asking too many questions. Because in a world that's tired, anxious, and desperate for a miracle, sometimes all you need is a fizzy placebo that tastes like hope. You belly up to the soda bar. Around you, men in dusty suits talk about railroads, cattle, and the good syrup. It's like a 19th century Starbucks, except everyone's stimulant of choice might contain laudanum. The air hums with chatter and carbonation. The clink of glasses mixes with the hiss of gas, creating a soundtrack that's half jazz, half laboratory accident. Behind the counter, the pharmacist, part chemist, part confessor, polishes a glass while listening to a rancher complain about the price of feed and the ache in his back. "Try the new tonic," the pharmacist says, sliding a bubbling concoction toward him. Guaranteed to fix your spine, or at least make you forget you have one. The soda fountain is the 1880s answer to therapy, a place to unburden your troubles while self-medicating with syrup and science. Everyone has their preferred flavor, their chosen miracle. The anxious drink something with cola nut for nervous energy. The tired go for caffeine-laced cherry syrup. The melancholy? Something darker, probably with opium undertones. It's all personalized wellness before the term existed. You take a seat on the leather stool, still warm from the last overworked soul who occupied it, and rest your elbows on the marble counter. The room smells of sugar, mint, and faint despair. Above you, a ceiling fan turns lazily, stirring the air but not quite cooling it. The pharmacist, sleeves rolled, tie askew, asks, "Rough day?" You nod, and he doesn't need to know more. That's the beauty of this place. No questions, just carbonation. Around you, the conversations flow as freely as the drinks. To your left, a traveling salesman brags about the new railroad line. To your right, a schoolteacher mutters about students who think geography is a conspiracy. Everyone's tired, everyone's overstimulated, and everyone's pretending that what's in their glass is making things better. It's a collective delusion, and somehow it works. Because the soda fountain isn't just a pharmacy, it's a social equalizer. Rich or poor, farmer or banker, everyone sits at the same counter, slurping from the same fizzing chalices of hope. It's where gossip is currency and caffeine is communion. The soda jerk, yes, that's the actual title, becomes part bartender, part therapist, and part minor deity. His every pour is an act of grace. If this feels familiar, it should. A century later, the ritual survives, just with espresso instead of elixirs. You walk into a modern cafe, order something that costs more than your dignity, and spend 15 minutes pretending you're not spiraling. The only difference is that Victorians did it in corsets and top hats, and their drinks might accidentally induce euphoria. The soda fountain thrives on that shared illusion of self-improvement. The bubbles say, "You're doing fine." The sweetness says, "You deserve this." The slight chemical burn in your throat says, "Maybe you should slow down," but you ignore it, because slowing down isn't an option in this century or any other. A woman at the far end of the counter orders a lady's tonic, cherry, vanilla, and a touch of fortifier. That last word could mean caffeine, could mean morphine, could mean ground-up optimism. She sips delicately and sighs. A preacher in the corner eyes her drink suspiciously, but soon orders one himself, muttering something about fatigue of the soul. Every now and then, someone laughs too loudly, or slaps the counter with the joy of a man whose aches have momentarily evaporated. The place buzzes with that peculiar kind of comfort that comes from shared escapism. Nobody's cured, but everyone feels a little lighter. Alderton's invention, Dr. Pepper, still unnamed at this point, becomes the star of the fountain. People come in just to try it. They sip, blink, and smile like they've just tasted ambition. "What's in it?" someone asks. The pharmacist shrugs. "A little bit of everything," which, in fairness, is true both chemically and existentially. As the evening light slants through the dusty windows, the crowd thins, leaving behind the echo of laughter and the faint clink of spoons in glasses. The soda jerk wipes the counter, humming softly. You finish your drink, the sweetness lingers, the fizz fading on your tongue like a secret. You realize it's not really the drink that brings people here. It's the ritual, the act of sitting, of talking, of pretending the world makes sense for just long enough to get through the day. The soda fountain is less about sugar and more about survival, because in a world without rest, without air conditioning, without therapy apps or group chats, sometimes the only cure for a weary soul is a cold glass, a sympathetic nod, and a pharmacist who knows when to listen and when to refill your drink. You stand, stretch, and leave a few coins on the counter. Behind you, another tired stranger takes your seat. The fizz rises again, the chatter resumes, and the little marble-topped world of the soda fountain keeps spinning. One sip of peace at a time. A few states over, another pharmacist named John Pemberton is inventing Coca-Cola, a drink also swimming in cocaine. The two drinks become the Red Bull and Monster Energy of their day, except they're both technically medication. It's the dawn of a new era, the carbonated arms race. In one corner, Waco's own fizzy phenom, Dr. Pepper, with its mysterious blend of 23 flavors and faint hints of narcotic nostalgia. In the other, Coca-Cola, the Georgian powerhouse that promises to soothe the nerves while simultaneously jump-starting your heart. It's not just a beverage rivalry. It's a caffeinated culture war fought with bubbles, branding, and enough sugar to sweeten the Mississippi. John Pemberton, the man behind Coke, is a former Confederate soldier turned pharmacist, because apparently the 19th century believed war trauma could best be cured by inventing soft drinks. He's wounded, morphine addicted, and, like Alderton, desperately searching for a cure to, well, existing. In his Atlanta lab, he's experimenting with coca leaves and cola nuts, stirring up a syrup that would soon make America hum louder than its telegraph wires. Both men are chasing the same dream, the elixir of modern life, something that cures fatigue, sharpens the mind, and ideally doesn't explode when mixed with water. The only difference? Pemberton's concoction comes with an extra side of, "Oh dear God, I can see sound." You can imagine the early taste tests. In one shop, Waco's locals sip Alderton's creation and sigh in relaxed bliss. In another, Atlantians down Pemberton's Coca-Cola and start redecorating their homes at 3 in the morning. It's the eternal human divide. Some want to calm down, others want to stay up forever. Both drinks are marketed as medicinal miracles, which is hilarious in hindsight. Coca-Cola claims to cure headaches, anxiety, impotence, and shyness, essentially promising to turn you into a fully functional Victorian superhero. Dr. Pepper, meanwhile, is pitched as a brain tonic, which sounds intellectual until you remember the main brain effect is just vibrating slightly faster. Pemberton's Coca-Cola quickly gains traction in the South. The formula, equal parts stimulant and sugar rush, makes people feel unstoppable. It's not just a drink, it's an experience. One sip, and you're ready to build a railroad, compose a symphony, or start 3 small businesses. Alderton's Dr. Pepper, on the other hand, offers something different. Smooth mystery, subtle spice, and a kind of contented buzz that feels more like a hug than a heart attack. The competition grows fierce. Both are sold in pharmacies. Both have doctors' names slapped on them for legitimacy. And both are considered moral alternatives to alcohol, because nothing says sobriety like replacing whiskey with liquid cocaine. The soda fountains of America become battlegrounds, each clerk pledging allegiance to their bubbly deity. Morrison, ever the hustler, notices the rise of Coca-Cola and feels a mix of admiration and irritation. Coke's marketing is loud, confident, and everywhere. Their posters show bright-eyed workers and angelic women holding glasses like holy relics. Dr. Pepper, meanwhile, is still the quirky cousin, less famous, but more intriguing. It's the underdog of the fizz world. While Coke builds its empire on speed, Dr. Pepper builds its identity on flavor. It's mysterious, complex, refined, a drink for thinkers, not sprinters, the kind of beverage that asks, what if caffeine had a personality, and then answers it with sassafras and a wink? Alderton might not be chasing profit, but Morrison certainly is. And watching Coca-Cola rise gives him something every entrepreneur needs, jealousy disguised as motivation. By the 1890s, Coca-Cola's popularity is skyrocketing, and copycats flood the market. Cola this, Doctor that. Every soda jerk in the country is bottling their own blend of bubbles and bold claims. It's chaos. A syrup-soaked, sugar-fueled, free for all. Some drinks claim to be better for digestion. Others swear they cure insomnia. Ironically, none of them help anyone sleep. And yet, Dr. Pepper holds its ground. It doesn't need to be the loudest, it just needs to be different. Where Coke feels industrial, sharp, addictive, electric, Dr. Pepper feels handmade, like a secret passed from pharmacist to pharmacist. It's got texture, personality, and that undefinable something that makes you raise an eyebrow after the first sip and think, I don't know what that was, but I like it. Eventually, both brands go national, spreading like gossip through every soda fountain in America. But while Coca-Cola grows into an empire, conquering cities, hearts, and tooth enamel, Dr. Pepper remains the maverick, the eccentric. It's not the drink of conformity, it's the drink of curiosity. Even now, historians argue about which one truly captured the spirit of the age. Coca-Cola embodied ambition, restless, energetic, a bit manic. Dr. Pepper embodied mystery, a strange mix of comfort and chaos, sweetness and spice, science and sin. Together, they defined America's dual personality, hopeful, overworked, and deeply in need of a beverage break. So, as the century turns and soda fountains glow in every town, the rivalry simmers quietly beneath the fizz. 2 pharmacists, 2 dreams, 2 glass bottles whispering promises to a weary world. One says, wake up. The other says, feel alive. And somehow, both are right. No one ever wrote down the exact original recipe. Some say it contained prune juice. Others whisper about bitter almond oil. What we know for sure is that flavor number 12 was definitely not FDA approved. The truth is, the original Dr. Pepper formula sits somewhere between science and sorcery. A riddle wrapped in carbonation. Charles Alderton, bless his overworked soul, didn't think he was inventing a legacy. He was just tinkering, experimenting, and trying not to blow up the soda fountain. The result was so complex, so bizarrely balanced, that when people asked what was in it, he just smiled and said, "A little bit of everything," which is not reassuring coming from a man surrounded by chemicals with skulls on their labels. Back in 1885, there were no rules about writing things down. Recipes lived inside heads, not ledgers. It was all about a dash of this and a hint of that, guided by instinct and caffeine. Alderton, like many pharmacists of his time, probably assumed he'd remember the ratios forever. But the human brain, especially one marinated in tonic fumes, is not a reliable hard drive. By the time people realized how good the drink was, the exact recipe was already drifting into legend. Rumors filled the gap. Some claimed the secret ingredient was prune juice, giving Dr. Pepper its deep, slightly fruity base. Others swore it was black cherry, molasses, or even ground herbs imported from somewhere with too many vowels in its name. Then there were the conspiracy theorists, the kind who probably slept in rocking chairs, who insisted there was something unnatural in it, something that explained why one glass made you feel like your thoughts were vibrating in sync with the universe. Modern chemists have spent decades trying to decode the elusive 23 flavors. They've detected hints of cherry, vanilla, licorice, clove, caramel, pepper, and even carrot. But flavor number 12? Nobody knows. It's the Bermuda Triangle of soda ingredients. Every attempt to isolate it ends the same way. Confusion, mild dizziness, and an overwhelming desire for another sip. The company, of course, leaned into the mystery. In the 20th century, as food science became serious business, Dr. Pepper's marketing team realized that not knowing was more powerful than knowing. They turned secrecy into spectacle. The 23 flavors are top secret, they said. Locked in a vault, which is exactly what you say when you've misplaced your recipe and are hoping nobody notices. To this day, people claim the formula is stored in two halves, in separate safes, one in Dallas, the other in Plano, like a carbonated version of the nuclear codes. Only a few executives allegedly know the full recipe, and they're forbidden to travel together, which feels dramatic for a drink whose most dangerous property may cause burping. But that's the beauty of it. It's not just a soda anymore. It's a myth. Every beverage company has their lore, but Dr. Pepper's stands out because of how weirdly believable it is. The flavor is so strange, so specific, that it feels like it must have been created under mysterious circumstances, a cosmic accident in a Waco pharmacy, never to be replicated, the kind of taste that seems to know secrets about you that you don't even know about yourself. And maybe that's why people still speculate. Is it the spices that make it unique? The faint bitterness, like burnt sugar and sassafras? Or is it something emotional, nostalgia bottled up and sold for $1.50 at the gas station? The truth probably lies somewhere between chemistry and collective delusion. One story even claims that flavor number 12 wasn't an ingredient at all, but an effect. That when Alderton first mixed his syrups, the combination of oils and acids created a subtle, brain-tingling sensation. Part scent, part taste, part memory. Something your tongue can't place, but your mind can't forget. In other words, the flavor of confusion itself. Of course, when the Food and Drug Administration eventually showed up in the 20th century, clutching clipboards and dignity, the recipe quietly changed. Whatever wasn't legal anymore got replaced with something equally confusing but less hallucinogenic. Yet somehow, the taste stayed the same. That's the real mystery. Not what's in Dr. Pepper, but how it still tastes like it remembers something the rest of us don't. Even today, you can line up all 23 flavors on a table. Caramel, vanilla, clove, cherry, maybe even prune, and try to recreate it. You'll get close, but not quite there. There's always something missing, something intangible, something that hums just beneath the sweetness like a secret you're not supposed to know. So yes, maybe the formula's locked in a vault, or maybe it was never truly written down at all. Maybe it exists only in the bubbles, a sensory ghost of 1885, still whispering through every glass. And if that's true, then flavor number 12 isn't a spice or a syrup. It's wonder. That dizzy, half-smiling, what did I just drink feeling that made people believe a beverage could be both medicine and magic. The formula might be secret, but the experience? That's eternal. The drink spreads across Texas like gossip at a church potluck. People claim it improves focus, relieves headaches, and makes their horse look at them with new respect. It starts small, as all revolutions do. A few folks in Waco know about the good syrup at Morrison's old corner drugstore, but word travels fast when you invent something that tastes like the future and leaves you feeling like you could run a cattle drive and balance your checkbook at the same time. By the time neighboring towns catch wind of Dr. Pepper, it's already more than a beverage. It's a brag. Have you tried the new drink? Becomes a competitive sport. If you haven't, you're living in the past. Wade Morrison wastes no time fanning the flames. He sends crates of the stuff to nearby towns, cleverly branded as Waco for a while, letting the mystery grow. By the time he switches to the Dr. Pepper name, the brand has an aura of both medical respectability and rebel cool. The kind of thing a schoolteacher could serve at a garden party, or a cowboy could swig after a brawl. You're not just drinking a soda, you're participating in a movement. Advertising naturally is everywhere. Storefronts get painted signs. Drink Dr. Pepper. For brains, brawn, and broken spirits. Newspaper columns run glowing testimonials. Some likely written by Morrison himself, or maybe his second cousin. Ever since I drank Dr. Pepper, one reader claims, I haven't had a headache, and my children started doing chores without complaint. Another says, my husband stopped chewing tobacco and started whistling hymns. The bar is low, but the enthusiasm is high. Pretty soon, the soda fountain at Morrison's becomes Waco's social epicenter. Clerks can barely keep up with the demand. Children beg for just a taste. Schoolteachers start spiking the punch at picnics, and ranch hands line up at the counter, hats in hand, looking for the day's prescription. The more they drink, the taller the stories get. Dr. Pepper fixes everything. They say toothaches, nerves, boredom, marital disputes. The only thing it doesn't fix is the price of beef. As the craze spreads, competitors scramble to invent their own magic elixirs. Every town seems to have a Doctor This or Professor That soda. Some are sweet, some are bitter. A few glow suspiciously in the dark. None of them match the mystery or the mouthfeel of Dr. Pepper. The original 23-flavor formula has that elusive it factor, a taste so complex. You can't decide if it's candy or cough drop, but you keep drinking just to figure it out. Morrison leverages every opportunity to make the drink famous. Dr. Pepper is showcased at county fairs and served to visiting dignitaries. If a railroad man comes through town, Morrison makes sure he leaves with a sample and a story. Traveling salesmen carry bottles in their cases, pouring tastes for strangers at every whistle stop. Soon, Dr. Pepper is everywhere. In fancy hotels, dusty general stores, and even on the tables of people who still aren't sure what it is, just that it feels important. By the early 1900s, Dr. Pepper leaps the bounds of Texas, landing in places that have never seen a live longhorn but suddenly crave something Texan. The drink rides the rails, sometimes literally, bottles tucked in the luggage of train conductors and businessmen headed east. Its reputation grows with every mile. the national audience proves hungry, or at least thirsty, for the promise of energy in a glass. Urbanites start drinking Dr. Pepper at lunch counters, and factory workers swear by it during their breaks. Ads in big city papers claim it restores mental clarity. A handy way to admit you're exhausted without admitting your job is slowly eating your soul. People everywhere begin to think of Dr. Pepper as something more than a regional quirk. It's the beverage equivalent of a self-help book, only with more sugar and fewer big words. By the time soda bottling becomes big business, Dr. Pepper is cemented as the original cult classic. It's not quite as omnipresent as Coca-Cola, but it's beloved, the quirky, slightly mysterious outsider brand that seems to know something the other sodas don't. Its fans are loyal. They spread the gospel, passing down bottles and origin stories, the way families hand down soup recipes. And so, from humble Waco roots to national icon, Dr. Pepper proves that the right mix of mystery, flavor, and audacity can turn a sleepy Texas tonic into a full-blown American addiction. It's not just a drink anymore. It's a tradition, a legend, and, for a lucky few, the only thing that ever made their horse raise an eyebrow in approval. Posters claim Dr. Pepper aids digestion, clears the mind, and restores youthful energy. Which, to be fair, it probably did, right before the Cleese-Ford crash. If you think modern advertising is wild, you've never seen a 19th century Dr. Pepper ad. Today's influencers may claim a product changed their life, but back then, soda ads promised to change your fate, cure your in-laws, and maybe make you see colors you didn't know existed. The Victorian era was a golden age of unregulated promises, where every bottle came with the optimism of a lottery ticket and the consequences of a trust fall. Morrison, ever the marketing genius, understood the power of hyperbole. He filled newspapers, billboards, and the sides of barns with dazzling claims. Drink Dr. Pepper and banish your blues. Good for what ails you, and what you didn't know ailed you. For the weary, the worried, and the wife who just wants 5 minutes of peace. It was less about what the drink did, and more about what you wished it would do. The science, of course, was a moving target. The word digestion covered a multitude of sins, from mild stomachaches to existential dread. Clearing the mind was code for a short, caffeine-fueled vacation from your problems. As for restoring youthful energy, you can almost picture a group of exhausted Victorians, slumped over their chores, taking one sip and suddenly feeling like they could climb a windmill, for about 20 minutes anyway. Visuals in early ads were works of art, and occasionally, fiction. Elegant ladies, looking suspiciously alert for women wearing corsets and 3 layers of wool, sipped Dr. Pepper in manicured gardens. Gentlemen in top hats grinned with the slightly crazed energy of someone who just discovered electricity. Sometimes there were angels, sometimes cherubs, and occasionally a very fit horse. For no discernible reason, the message was clear. This drink is so good, it's practically supernatural. Endorsed by doctors. The posters crowed, with little footnotes like, probably. Occasionally, they'd name a real or invented physician. Dr. Weatherby, esteemed digestive specialist, recommends Dr. Pepper for clarity and comfort. Dr. Weatherby, of course, might have been Morrison's neighbor's cat, but nobody was fact-checking. Why let the truth ruin a perfectly good slogan? In a world without Google, the average shopper had to trust what they read, or at least what everyone else seemed to be drinking. Word of mouth amplified the hype. If your neighbor's cousin claimed her headaches went away after a glass of Dr. Pepper, who were you to argue? Especially if you also wanted to believe you'd just bought a miracle for a nickel. Children were some of Dr. Pepper's best unpaid promoters. Their endless energy, and lack of understanding about side effects turned them into walking advertisements. Parents, desperate for an edge over cranky kids or their own exhaustion, were happy to believe any label that read "restores vigor." If the children ran circles around the yard afterward, well, that was just proof it worked. The sugar crash and tantrum that followed, not the ad's problem. Even the ingredients, when listed, sounded like a gentle science experiment, a harmonious blend of roots, barks, and rare botanicals. Never mind that botanical could mean anything from sassafras to something Alderton found growing behind the shop. The phrase 23 flavors itself became a marketing masterpiece, vague, intriguing, and impossible to disprove. Morrison doubled down on the mystique. He hinted that Dr. Pepper's precise formulation was known only to a select few and locked away for the safety of mankind. This made the drink feel dangerous in the best way, like you were part of an elite club that could, at any moment, gain the power to run marathons or invent the telephone. But beneath all the bravado was a certain Victorian charm. The ads, ridiculous as they were, reflected the genuine hope of a tired, overworked nation. People wanted a cure, or at least a momentary reprieve. Dr. Pepper, with its wild claims and fizzy optimism, offered just that. Not a promise kept, but a promise believed. And when reality set in, the sugar wore off, the nerves settled, the headache came sneaking back, well, there was always tomorrow, always another glass, always another ad promising the impossible. In the end, the real magic wasn't in the bottle. It was in the belief that maybe, just maybe, this time, the miracle might last. You sip the fizzy concoction and feel it hit, a mix of caffeine, sugar, and just enough narcotic residue to make you forget what decade it is. It's like the first energy drink, except it came with a moral alibi. It's hard to imagine now, but there was a time when staying awake was a survival skill, not just a bad habit. In 1885, your options for fighting exhaustion were limited. You could nap and risk missing your shift, or you could stroll into Morrison's pharmacy and order something that made your entire body believe sleep was a government conspiracy. Every glass of Dr. Pepper was a microcosm of Victorian resourcefulness and recklessness. Caffeine was the backbone of the operation. Before coffee shops on every corner, caffeine was delivered by the pharmacist, not the barista. Victorian pharmacists understood the secret to success. Keep the customers awake, alert, and just jittery enough to come back for more. The cola nut, one of the 23 legendary flavors, delivered a jolt so sharp it could startle you out of a fever dream. Your heart didn't just beat, it tap danced. Sugar was the great equalizer. It masked the bitterness of whatever else lurked in the glass, and provided a lightning bolt of energy to everyone from tired mothers to overworked shop clerks. Sugar wasn't a treat. It was a necessity, the only thing standing between you and total existential collapse. Every sip was a small rebellion against the blandness and drudgery of 19th century existence. It was childhood in a glass, followed by a crash that felt like a 3-day hangover. And then there were the opiates, the true secret sauce of the era. Most tonics and pick-me-ups in 1885 included a wink and a nudge from the poppy plant. Dr. Pepper, as a product of its time, was likely no different. Laudanum, codeine, or a dusting of morphine made their way into everything from cough syrup to children's teething drops. To modern ears, it sounds unthinkable. Back then, it was standard operating procedure. Why have a plain headache cure when you could have one that delivered a gentle, euphoric breeze straight to your central nervous system? The result? The original Dr. Pepper was less a soft drink and more a chemical pep rally. It soothed the nerves, quickened the pulse, and left your taste buds a little confused and very grateful. Customers would come in droopy-eyed and shuffling, and leave with a new lease on life, or at least a temporary lease, with no credit check required. If you seemed especially tired, the pharmacist might add an extra dash of something special. Nobody ever asked what that was. In Victorian America, plausible deniability was the other key ingredient. This trinity of caffeine, sugar, and opiates became a daily ritual, and not just for the overworked. Kids lined up at soda fountains with their nickels, slurping down enough stimulation to power a classroom of future entrepreneurs. Teachers drank it to survive the kids. Everyone else drank it because, after your first glass, water felt like an act of surrender. But make no mistake, this was more than self-medication. It was cultural. People boasted about how much Dr. Pepper they could handle. Ranchers claimed it made their horses run faster. Questionable. While office workers swore it made paperwork almost interesting. Doubtful. A Victorian mother might pour herself a glass and sigh. Finally, I feel like myself again, which meant I have the energy to scold my children until sundown. And if the medicine made you a little loopy, even better. It was an excuse to nap in church and call it treatment for nerves. The moral alibi was the cherry on top. With the doctor in Dr. Pepper, you didn't have to confess to self-indulgence. You were taking your medicine, thank you very much, following doctor's orders. It was temperance in a tumbler, respectable vice. The loophole that let you chase a high without so much as a wink to the bartender. Eventually, regulators would catch on and start pulling narcotics out of everything that fizzed. But for a few golden decades, the original Dr. Pepper offered a legal, bubbly blend of modern miracles. A formula that kept America awake, moving, and just a little bit out of touch with reality. So next time you drink a can and wonder why it feels like nostalgia and caffeine had a child together, remember, you're sipping on the ghost of an era when the best way to solve a problem was to sweeten it, spike it, and hope the crash didn't hit until after dinner. Eventually, other doctors, the sober ones, start asking, should our children be drinking morphine-flavored prune soda? The answer, shockingly, is maybe not every day. At first, nobody wanted to spoil the fun. Soda fountains were America's answer to existential dread, serving up bubbly optimism with a side of plausible deniability. Everyone from schoolteachers to saloon keepers was hooked on the notion that you could restore vigor and clear the mind simply by drinking something with a doctor's name and a suspiciously long list of ingredients. But the party couldn't last forever. Every golden age is just a few too many headaches away from a reckoning. The first rumblings of panic came from medical journals, or what passed for medical journals in the late 19th century, which were often just pamphlets written by cranky men in vests. Is it possible, they wondered aloud, that the cure is worse than the disease? They questioned the wisdom of selling chemically enhanced sodas to children, the elderly, and anyone else who could reach the counter. Some even had the nerve to ask what, exactly, was in all these miracle tonics. The response from soda jerks and pharmacists alike was generally a shrug, followed by, "It tastes good, doesn't it?" But questions have a way of spreading, and soon enough, newspapers picked up the story. Headlines blared, "Is your soda fountain a threat to public health? And mothers beware. That nightly tonic may be more than sugar." The great American tradition of a good old-fashioned panic was underway. Suddenly, everything was suspicious. Was Dr. Pepper really curing your nerves, or just giving them something else to complain about? The backlash wasn't just about the ingredients. It was about the culture. People began to worry that America's youth was growing up addicted not only to sugar, but to whatever else was hiding in their favorite drinks. Ministers sermonized against the moral decay of fizzy indulgence, Temperance advocates warned that soda fountains were just gateway drugs to something stronger, like whiskey or, worse, French literature. Parents grew nervous. One day, little Tommy was bouncing off the walls and acing spelling bees. The next, he was sleeping through supper and muttering about the colors in his dreams. It didn't help that soda jerks took a certain pride in serving the strongest tonic in town. Local politicians held hearings, waving half-empty bottles of nerve syrup and asking, "Is this progress or just well-dressed chaos?" Of course, manufacturers pushed back. Wade Morrison, always quick with a slogan, declared, "Dr. Pepper builds strong bodies and stronger communities," and invited anyone with doubts to visit his store for a complimentary glass and a reassuring handshake. Ads started including more science, diagrams of nerves, testimonies from fictional doctors, and earnest claims that all ingredients were perfectly safe if consumed by someone else. The war of words escalated, but the cat was out of the bag. The real tipping point came when the government finally decided to get involved. Health officials, armed with newfangled ideas about regulation, started visiting soda fountains, peering into barrels, and asking for ingredient lists. Suddenly, the secrets that made Dr. Pepper so appealing became liabilities. Words like laudanum and extract of opium went from being selling points to red flags. Companies scrambled to reformulate, quietly removing the more therapeutic ingredients in favor of caffeine and the ever-mysterious natural flavors. This wasn't just about chemistry. It was about trust and about how quickly it could evaporate. The moral panic reflected the nation's growing discomfort with uncertainty. Americans wanted a miracle, but not one that came with withdrawal symptoms. They craved safety, but also novelty. They wanted their medicine to taste good and make them better, but not too much better, lest it start to feel like cheating. And yet, even as the crackdown intensified and regulations took hold, Dr. Pepper survived. The formula changed, the advertising softened, and the winks grew subtler. The wildest days of soda-fueled enlightenment faded into nostalgia, but the drink remained. Proof that you could weather a moral panic with just enough sweetness, secrecy, and a willingness to occasionally take out the opium. In the end, the Great Soda Scare taught America a valuable lesson. Always read the label, but don't expect to understand it. And if your pharmacist ever offers you something just to take the edge off, maybe ask a few more questions before you start seeing colors in your dreams. When alcohol is banned, soda fountains take over as the new social hangout. Dr. Pepper cleans up its act. Fewer narcotics, more caffeine, and a new slogan, "Drink a bite to eat," which is not as comforting as it sounds. The 1920s arrive in a blast of jazz, bobbed hair, and a sudden, nationwide thirst. With the stroke of a pen, Prohibition has turned saloons into soup kitchens and made the phrase "respectable drinking establishment" about as rare as a sober bootlegger. Bars close, but America's need to gather, gossip, and pretend their day isn't soul-crushing finds a new outlet. The soda fountain. Suddenly, the corner pharmacy becomes the place to see and be seen, and Dr. Pepper, with its enigmatic, effervescent charm, is front and center on every marble counter. This is the era of the big switch. Soda fountains, once just a quirky side hustle for pharmacists, become social meccas. Young people flirt over phosphate sodas. Old-timers swap stories between sips of sarsaparilla. Office workers sneak away for a pick-me-up and return pretending they're not just slightly buzzed from the caffeine. In this brave new world of forced sobriety, Dr. Pepper is more than just a drink. It's a lifestyle. But to thrive, Dr. Pepper needs a makeover. The Wild West days of narcotic-laced miracle tonics are over, replaced by a slightly panicked desire for respectability. The opiates quietly disappear, replaced by extra caffeine. And, of course, more sugar. The doctor in Dr. Pepper becomes less about shady medicine and more about wholesome soda fountain fun. The drink pivots from maybe medicinal to maybe just a really peppy snack. Enter the new slogan, drink a bite to eat. It's catchy, a little confusing, and implies that a glass of Dr. Pepper is basically a sandwich in liquid form. Ads suggest you can skip lunch altogether if you just down a tall, cold glass. If you're looking for nutrition, look elsewhere. But if you want to tell your boss you ate, Dr. Pepper has your back. The marketing plays up the idea of Dr. Pepper as the ideal companion for your midday break. Posters feature elegant flappers and dapper gents, all grinning with the haunted eyes of people who haven't had a real meal in weeks. For vim, vigor, and victory, the ads declare, and everyone pretends this is just about sugar and caffeine. The new respectability doesn't stop the wild claims, it just dresses them up in better clothes. And so, soda fountains become the Prohibition-era speakeasies. Secret handshakes are replaced by complicated soda orders. If you want to show you're in the know, you order a Dr. Pepper straight up, no ice, maybe with a dash of lemon. Soda jerks become part showman, part social referee, and full-time connoisseur of the caffeinated arts. The clang of glass, the hiss of carbonation, and the buzz of conversation fill the air with something dangerously close to hope. But beneath all the marble counters and cheery posters, the same undercurrent remains. People are desperate for escape. Prohibition hasn't made America more sober, just more creative. Instead of whiskey, you drown your sorrows in bubbles and syrup, telling yourself you're making healthy choices. Soda fountains give you a ritual, a reason to gather, a way to believe that maybe, just maybe, you're having a good time. Dr. Pepper, in turn, becomes the drink of the in-between, not as rebellious as whiskey, not as boring as water. It's a treat, a secret, a comfort. Kids love it, parents tolerate it, and everyone else just needs another excuse to leave work for 10 minutes and drink something cold with a friend. As the years roll on, Dr. Pepper cements its image as the icon of respectability. Its formula is safer, its ads more wholesome, its aura less suspicious. But beneath the fizz and friendliness, it never quite loses its edge. The doctor is still in, just with a little less bite and a lot more plausible deniability. And as Prohibition sputters to an end and the nation teeters on the brink of yet another era, one thing is clear. America's thirst for comfort, conversation, and a little bit of harmless rebellion is bottomless. Dr. Pepper just found a way to bottle it for everyone, with or without the side of narcotics. By the 1920s, Dr. Pepper is rebranded as a wholesome soft drink. The doctor still implies trust, but now it's more about flavor than pharmaceuticals. Mostly. It's a new era. The country is roaring, jazz is blaring, and people have started thinking about their drinks the way they think about their wardrobes. The wilder, the better. Gone are the days of mysterious medicinal tonics. Now, soda is pure, playful indulgence, served up at the marble counters of every soda fountain in America. Dr. Pepper, once a rebel in a bottle, leans into the shift, scrubbing off any whiff of its herbal sedative past and reinventing itself as the ultimate sweet treat. Everywhere you look, the message is the same. This is not your grandfather's nerve tonic. Dr. Pepper becomes the drink of bright afternoons, church socials, and Friday night movies. The advertising is all about happiness, energy, and good, clean fun. There are contests for Dr. Pepper's Perfect Picnic, magazine spreads featuring smiling families, and posters declaring, "For health and good cheer." If anyone remembers that the first Dr. Pepper might have been laced with a little something extra, they're certainly not saying so out loud. But make no mistake, the doctor is still doing a lot of heavy lifting. Even though the narcotics have quietly vanished, the name still makes people feel like they're making a responsible choice. You can almost hear the inner monologue. This isn't just soda. It's practically a prescription. The pharmacist says, "It's fine. After all, who would question the judgment of a mustachioed gentleman in a starched white coat?" Dr. Pepper's transformation from dubious tonic to trusted treat is also about timing. The post-war boom has filled America with a hunger for novelty, optimism, and all things modern. Soda fountains are the Starbucks of the era, gathering places where people gossip, daydream, and indulge in desserts disguised as drinks. With alcohol still banned for much of the decade, the soft drink market explodes. Dr. Pepper, with its unique, not quite identifiable flavor, stands out from the growing crowd of colas and root beers. The drink is no longer just medicine, it's dessert. People pour it over ice cream and call it a pepper float. Home cooks add it to cake batter, convinced that a splash of Dr. Pepper will keep their bundt cakes moist, lively, and vaguely mysterious. It's served at weddings, picnics, and baseball games. Grandparents spoil children with it, promising just a little for a special treat. Dr. Pepper becomes a part of American childhood, so ubiquitous that by the end of the decade, not knowing its flavor is almost a social liability. And yet, some traces of its wild past linger. The recipe remains a closely guarded secret. Rumors swirl about what gives it that distinctive kick. Is it prune juice, or vanilla, or something more adventurous? But people aren't worried about what's in their glass. They're worried about how soon they can have another. The closest thing to a scandal is the sugar rush that leaves kids vibrating with glee, and parents wondering if bedtime will ever arrive. The soda fountain culture also evolves. No longer just a spot to take your medicine, it's where you go to meet friends, flirt with strangers, and feel like part of the modern world. Dr. Pepper's branding keeps pace, painting the drink as the cheerful, slightly eccentric cousin to more famous colas. The ads promise refreshment for all ages, and every sip a smile. A far cry from the days of revives the spirits and calms the nerves, which, if you read between the lines, once meant may contain opiates. As the 1930s approach, Dr. Pepper stands tall. The strange, sweet success story that proved a soda could reinvent itself again and again. It has become the beverage of memory and comfort. Proof that even the strangest inventions can survive and thrive with just a little sugar, a dash of mystery, and the right timing. So, the next time you pop open a can, remember, you're not just drinking a soft drink, you're sipping on the American dream. 23. Flavors strong, with a history that's just as complex as its taste. From pharmacy counter to picnic table, Dr. Pepper is a reminder that even the wildest ideas can go mainstream, provided they're delicious enough. Ads tell you to drink Dr. Pepper at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 4 p.m. The hours your soul typically leaves your body at work. It's marketing genius disguised as a sleep deprivation strategy. Welcome to the era of Dr. Pepper's greatest experiment, hacking the human energy cycle. It's the early 20th century, and America is in love with routines, lunch breaks, smoke breaks, awkward elevator conversations, and, thanks to Dr. Pepper, scheduled soda breaks. The ad campaign is everywhere. Clocks, calendars, even radio jingles reminding you that at 10, 2, and 4, your body is legally required to crave a bubbling glass of Dr. Pepper. No one can explain why, but everyone nods along as if it's a medical fact. It all starts with an innocent-sounding question. When do you need a pick-me-up most? The answer, apparently, is precisely 3 times a day. And always at moments when your boss is looking over your shoulder, Dr. Pepper's marketers spin this into a wellness regimen. Forget 3 square meals. Now it's 3 carbonated lifelines. Strategically timed so you can survive the day without face planting into your typewriter. The psychology is, in a word, brilliant. The ad men latch onto the universal experience of workplace fatigue. That slow, creeping sensation that by mid-morning, early afternoon, and again in the late afternoon, your will to live is running on fumes. By offering a fizzy, sugary solution at the exact moments your attention span gives out, Dr. Pepper isn't just selling a drink. It's selling hope, discipline, and a schedule that makes sense for once in your life. Posters feature drowsy office workers and factory employees glancing at the clock, eyes glazed over with existential ennui. Right on cue, a beaming soda jerk appears, ready to deliver the doctor's orders. The message is clear. Why suffer through the day unaided when science, or at least sugar and caffeine, has provided a better way? It's not just encouragement to drink more soda. It's an excuse to stop working and do something that, if not exactly healthy, is at least undeniably pleasant. The 10-2-4 campaign goes viral in an era before viral was a thing. School children recite it as a mantra. Factory bosses put up reminders in the break room, pretending it's about productivity when everyone knows it's just about morale. People genuinely start timing their days around it. If you drink Dr. Pepper at 10, you'll breeze through the boring meeting. At 2, you'll find the will to open your mail. By 4, you'll survive until quitting time. Who needs willpower when you have a timer and a bottle cap? There's a reason it works. Sugar and caffeine are nature's shortcut to temporary happiness. A mid-morning crash? Dr. Pepper. A post-lunch slump? Dr. Pepper. The creeping horror that is 3:59 p.m. You guessed it. It's the pre-energy drink era solution to modern exhaustion, and it's cheerfully disguised as a harmless, friendly soda habit. And the science, such as it is, only helps the mystique. Dr. Pepper's marketers start citing studies, or at least numbers that sound like studies, about blood sugar, brain function, and the energy curve. Diagrams appear in ads, charting the rise and fall of your natural pep. Never mind that nobody's ever seen these studies outside of an ad. The point is that someone in a lab coat said so. But the campaign's true genius is psychological. It's not just about timing, it's about ritual. When you look at the clock and think 10, 2, 4, you're not just reminded to drink, you're reminded to take a moment for yourself. In a world of endless toil and no such thing as a wellness app, that was a revelation. 3 little breaks that promise, if not productivity, then at least a brief escape from your own mind. Even today, the ghost of 10-2-2 lingers. People still reach for their favorite caffeinated crutch at those odd hours, still believing there's something almost medicinal about the ritual. Whether it's an energy drink, coffee, or a justified can of Dr. Pepper, we all crave that sanctioned sip of possibility. So the next time you check your watch and feel that urge for a sweet, fizzy reward, thank the ad men of yesteryear. They didn't just sell you a soda. They sold you a schedule, a superstition, and a little more stamina to face the endless hours between sunrise and sanity. Dr. Pepper can't quite outmuscle Coke's marketing empire, but it carves a niche as the quirky cousin of the soda world. Less popular, but somehow cooler for it. This is the great American showdown, the Pepsi challenge. Before Pepsi was even a glimmer in a syrup peddler's eye. As the 20th century marches on, Coca-Cola is turning its signature red into a global power color, blanketing cities with billboards, sponsoring polar bears, and becoming synonymous with American refreshment. They're everywhere. Lunch counters, ballparks, hotel lobbies, and the nightmares of dentists everywhere. Meanwhile, Dr. Pepper is busy being well. Dr. Pepper, the drink doesn't have the same money or muscle as its rival, but it's got attitude, a hint of rebellion, and a fan base that treats it less like a soda and more like a family heirloom. You don't just drink Dr. Pepper, you pledge allegiance to it. You make your out-of-town relatives try it and watch their faces with pride, horror, or confusion. Coke's marketing is relentless, almost militaristic. Their slogans change with the wind. Delicious and refreshing. It's the real thing. Things go better with Coke. They attach themselves to every major event, from world wars to county fairs. They send armies of delivery men out in crisp uniforms, ensuring that not a single thirsty soul escapes the red and white wave. Dr. Pepper can't hope to keep pace, so it doesn't try. Instead, Dr. Pepper leans into its own weirdness. Its ads are cheeky, a little self-deprecating, and just eccentric enough to stick in your mind. They promise 23 flavors, still a secret, still just out of reach, and boast about being one of a kind. There's no cola war here. It's a flavor Cold War, a subtle battle for the hearts of the nonconformists. By the mid-20th century, Coke has infiltrated every soda fountain and grocery shelf. Its logo as familiar as Sunday morning. But Dr. Pepper? It remains the choice of the outliers. The kid who brings it to lunch and instantly becomes a legend. The diner that stocks it because we like to do things a little differently. People who love Dr. Pepper really love it. And they want you to know. If Coke is the prom king, Dr. Pepper is the cool kid in the corner reading comic books and plotting world domination one sip at a time. The company's regional pride becomes a badge of honor. Drink a bite to eat at 10, 2, and 4, the ads declare. The rest of the country may be worshipping the cola gods, but in Texas, Oklahoma, and the hidden corners of the Midwest, Dr. Pepper is something like a sacred trust. You'll find it at family reunions, backyard barbecues, and 4th of July parades where someone's cousin brings homemade Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce and swears it's an old family recipe. And while Coke dabbles in vanilla, cherry, and lemon, Dr. Pepper's flavor remains a riddle wrapped in a mystery, topped with a slice of lime if you're feeling fancy. It's proudly different. So different, in fact, that people invent wild rumors. There's prune juice in it. No. It's made from 23 secret spices stolen from a monastery. The true recipe is locked away, but the myth is free to wander. Coke spends millions on celebrity endorsements and Olympic sponsorships, but Dr. Pepper finds its advocates in small-town soda jerks, high school marching bands, and, eventually, the internet's earliest fandoms. Fans write songs, create memes, and defend their drink with the fervor of people who have absolutely nothing better to do. Still, the rivalry is mostly friendly, sometimes bordering on sibling-like bickering. Coke's dominance is never really threatened, but Dr. Pepper doesn't fade away. Instead, it survives, and even thrives, by being the choice for people who look at a row of red cans and reach for the maroon one just to see what all the fuss is about. Over the decades, this underdog status becomes a superpower. When other sodas try to copy the Dr. Pepper mystique, they fail. You can't fake being the original weirdo. Dr. Pepper's place in American culture is set. It's the eccentric, the outlier, the one-of-a-kind drink that refuses to be defined. So while Coke conquers continents, Dr. Pepper keeps winning hearts. One curious, adventurous, slightly rebellious soul at a time. In the end, the battle of the buzz isn't about being the biggest. Sometimes, it's about being the strangest, the boldest, and, for the people who love you, the best. Generations grow up believing Dr. Pepper is secretly made of prune juice. It's not, but the myth persists. mostly because nobody's brave enough to find out what's actually in flavor number 17. This is how legends are born, not from facts, but from the glorious absence of them. Since its debut, Dr. Pepper has been shrouded in flavorful mystery. 23 secret flavors, locked away like the crown jewels, whispered about in soda shops and passed along at backyard barbecues. But none of the rumors have the strange staying power of the prune juice myth. It starts innocently enough, with a question. What gives Dr. Pepper its depth? It's not cola, not root beer, not quite cherry, and definitely not anything you could compare to a fruit basket. People taste something complex and slightly fruity, and, desperate for an explanation, they land on prunes. Why prunes? Probably because they were the only fruit at the time, both mysterious and suspiciously medicinal. It's the same logic that makes people think cough syrup tastes like wild berries. Hint: it doesn't. Soon, the story is everywhere. Parents tell their kids, "You know, that's made from prunes," as if it's a threat, a warning, or a challenge. High schoolers dare each other to drink it anyway. The myth takes on a life of its own. Every time Dr. Pepper's unique taste stumps a first-time sipper, some helpful bystander will lean in and say, "You know what that is, right? Prune juice." There's no evidence, but there is conviction, and that's all a myth needs. The company, for their part, plays coy. "What are the 23 flavors?" interviewers ask. "Trade secret," comes the reply, with just enough of a wink to keep the legend bubbling. Even when Dr. Pepper formally denied the prune juice rumor in the 1970s, nobody believed them. In fact, the denial only made things worse. If you have to deny it, the thinking goes, it must be true. It's the beverage world's version of, "I swear, it's not a wig." The truth is, prunes never had a starring role in Dr. Pepper. Early recipes mention all sorts of flavors: cherry, licorice, amaretto, cola nut, even black pepper. But prunes don't make the cut. Still, the flavor is so tricky to describe that the mind clings to the one thing it's been told. You sip, you taste, and you think, maybe? That tiny moment of doubt is all it takes to keep the myth alive for another generation. And let's be honest, the myth persists because it's more fun than the truth. Would you rather tell your friends you're drinking a mysterious blend of 23 herbs and spices, or that you're sipping the world's most elaborate prune juice? If you're a kid, prune juice sounds slightly dangerous, like you're breaking the rules and your digestive tract at the same time. If you're an adult, it's the perfect joke to sneak into any conversation about staying regular. The legend even feeds into Dr. Pepper's outsider identity. Coke and Pepsi are predictable. You know what you're getting. But Dr. Pepper is chaos in a can, flavor-wise and myth-wise. Prune juice is the punchline and the mystery all at once. There's an odd pride among Dr. Pepper fans. They know their drink is misunderstood, and they like it that way. If you're going to have a cult following, you might as well have a rumor that makes people raise their eyebrows. Even soda historians, yes, that's a thing, have weighed in. Some have pored over old pharmacy ledgers, hunting for the elusive prune, but found nothing. Others suggest the rumor started as a rival's smear campaign. After all, nothing kills a soda's street cred faster than being labeled the old people's juice. Still, Dr. Pepper's reputation only grows more legendary. You can't defeat a myth with facts. You can only add more bubbles. Today, the prune juice rumor endures. A sweet, slightly tart nod to the power of suggestion and the human love of a good story. So the next time someone tells you Dr. Pepper is made from prunes, just nod, smile, and enjoy the taste of confusion. Because whatever flavor number 17 actually is, it's not prune juice. But wouldn't it be hilarious if it were? Modern soda scientists have tried to decode the 23 flavors using chromatography and hubris. So far, they've gotten notes of cola nut, vanilla, cherry, and existential dread. You'd think, with all the miracles of modern science, gene editing, quantum computing, convincing AI to write bedtime stories, someone would have cracked the code of Dr. Pepper's 23 flavors by now. And yet, here we are, a century later, and the world's brightest flavor chemists are still running up against a wall of syrupy mystery and collective denial. It started as a noble quest. Surely, with enough technology, you could break down a soda into its elemental truths. Laboratories across America brought out their finest chromatographs, which are basically high-tech flavor snitches, ready to separate every last molecule. Scientists in white coats pipetted samples into beakers, the air humming with anticipation and the faint aroma of spilled nostalgia. The results? A mad jumble. Cherry, yes. Almond, almost certainly. Caramel, vanilla, a little bit of black pepper. But then the trail goes fuzzy, like an old radio signal crossing into another dimension. One taster, after a long day with the gas chromatograph, reported notes of clove, licorice, and, I don't know, regret. The list of supposed flavors keeps getting longer and weirder. Some claim they taste molasses, ginger, amaretto, even a whiff of tomato, which frankly sounds like a dare gone wrong. Others swear there's a bit of birch, a hint of rum, maybe a dash of plum, and always that whisper of something floral. Nobody can agree on which flower, but everyone's sure it's there, haunting the aftertaste like a Victorian ghost. But flavor is as much about psychology as chemistry. Put 10 people in a room with a glass of Dr. Pepper, and you'll get 11 opinions. Taste, after all, is tangled up with memory. Maybe you grew up drinking Dr. Pepper at summer picnics, so now you swear you can taste sunshine and hot dogs. Maybe you first tried it as a dare, and every sip comes with a sense of mischief and mild digestive anxiety. Science can tell you what's in a bottle, but it can't explain why your brain thinks existential dread is a top note. As the hunt drags on, chemists become philosophers. They debate whether Dr. Pepper's magic is about what's there or what isn't. Some insist that flavor number 23 is an illusion, the flavor equivalent of Bigfoot. Maybe it's a trick of how the ingredients blend, a harmony so strange it creates something new, something unnameable. A few bold researchers even suggest the real secret is the order in which the flavors are mixed, a culinary Fibonacci sequence that only Alderton knew. Every few years, a new group claims they've cracked the code. The headlines roll out, "Secret of Dr. Pepper revealed," and then the article quietly admits that they've just made a close copy that tastes a little bit like cherry cola after a bad breakup. The company, for its part, neither confirms nor denies anything. Executives smile, nod, and quietly remind everyone that the recipe is still locked in a vault, split into parts, and possibly protected by a swarm of caffeinated armadillos. All this scientific failure has only fueled the myth. Dr. Pepper fans love that their favorite drink can't be cloned. It makes every can feel like a limited edition. Every sip, a tiny act of rebellion against the predictable world of vanilla and cola. If Coke and Pepsi are fast food, Dr. Pepper is a secret recipe from your eccentric aunt. Confusing, delightful, and definitely not to be trusted around heavy machinery. There's a beautiful futility in the search. The more you chase the 23 flavors, the further they seem to drift. And maybe that's the real magic. Not in the solution, but in the mystery. We live in an age where everything gets unmasked, revealed, explained. But Dr. Pepper? It stays just out of reach, daring you to solve it, knowing you never will. So if you ever find yourself in a lab with a dropper full of Dr. Pepper, a notebook, and a dream, Remember, some mysteries are better left unsolved. Take a sip, taste the existential dread, and join the long, proud tradition of people who have absolutely no idea what they're drinking, but know it's the best kind of madness. In the 1980s, Dr. Pepper tried to go caffeine-free. Sales dropped faster than your blood sugar after skipping lunch. Turns out, people liked their beverages mildly addictive. It was the era of leg warmers, aerobics, and questionable dietary advice. Americans were hooked on the idea of health, just as long as it didn't actually involve eating vegetables. Snackwells replaced Oreos, diet sodas flooded the shelves, and every product suddenly came in a light version. Somewhere between neon leotards and Jane Fonda workout tapes, Dr. Pepper looked around, felt the pressure, and decided, fine, let's pretend soda is a health food too. Thus was born the caffeine-free Dr. Pepper, a beverage designed for the guilt-ridden and the optimistic. The can looked almost identical, except for a golden stripe and an air of defensiveness. Ads assured you that all the classic 23 flavors were there, just without the pep, same taste. None of the jitters, they promised. It was like offering a roller coaster that never leaves the station, technically accurate, but spiritually unsatisfying. The launch was met with what marketers call cautious curiosity, and what soda jerks called polite confusion. The first customers were the health-conscious, the caffeine-sensitive, and, inevitably, a few parents who wanted to control their children's energy levels without outright banning fun. Kids sipped it at birthday parties and looked around, waiting for the rush that never came. Adults drank it after dinner and found themselves wide awake at 9:30 p.m., thinking, what if I just had a real Dr. Pepper? It didn't take long for word to spread. The taste was almost right. The bubbles were perky. The flavor was close. But something essential was missing. Like a party where everyone showed up, but nobody danced. Without caffeine, Dr. Pepper became the soda version of decaf coffee. Technically correct, but emotionally confusing. Regular fans returned to the original, sheepishly admitting that maybe I do need a little boost. The caffeine-free cans gathered dust at the back of gas station fridges and suburban pantries, slowly aging into carbonated regret. But the experiment did something fascinating. It exposed just how much America craved its legal fizzy stimulants. People wanted the ritual and the reassurance, but they also wanted the kick, the jolt that let them believe they could power through the afternoon slump or survive another PTA meeting. Caffeine was less a vice and more a secret handshake among the weary. Of course, Dr. Pepper wasn't alone in this. The whole beverage industry jumped on the caffeine-free train. Coca-Cola and Pepsi did the same, convinced that the future of soda was safe and sleep-friendly. But while diet sodas found an audience among calorie counters, caffeine-free sodas mostly just made everyone nostalgic for the days when soft drinks gave you a reason to stay awake in math class. There were commercials featuring smiling joggers and cheerful grandmas, all promising that you could drink Dr. Pepper at bedtime and still get your 8 hours. The nation yawned politely. Even the packaging seemed unsure of itself, less vibrant, less confident, and always apologizing for not being the real thing. That's not to say caffeine-free Dr. Pepper had no fans. There were always the rare, brave souls who enjoyed the flavor and shunned the stimulant. They gathered in support groups, quietly sipping their sodas and pretending they didn't miss the buzz. They were the heroes nobody asked for, and, frankly, the heroes nobody envied. Eventually, the pendulum swung back. The nation remembered that, sometimes, life is just easier when you can chase your dreams with a little extra help from the doctor. Caffeinated, carbonated, and unapologetically peppy, sales of the original formula surged, and caffeine-free Dr. Pepper retreated to the far corners of the soda aisle, kept alive mostly by nostalgia, habit, and the eternal optimism that maybe this time it'll taste the same. So next time you reach for a cold Dr. Pepper and feel that familiar jolt of energy, give a quiet nod to the brief, bewildering age when we all tried to pretend our favorite drinks could be both safe and exciting. Turns out, America's soul was never caffeine-free. And, honestly, that's probably for the best. Texans treat Dr. Pepper like holy water. There's even a Dr. Pepper museum in Waco, where you can stand reverently before vintage bottles and whisper, "I forgive you for the opium thing." This is more than brand loyalty. It's practically a state religion. In Texas, Dr. Pepper is not just a drink. It's an identity, a rite of passage, a birthright you inherit alongside barbecue and an inability to handle icy roads. People don't just drink it. They defend it, celebrate it, and, in moments of crisis, probably baptize their children with it. Somewhere between the Alamo and Buc-ee's, Texans decided that Dr. Pepper was theirs, and everyone else was just lucky to share in the blessing. Walk into any Texas gas station and you'll see it. Coolers lined with rows of Dr. Pepper, always fully stocked and mysteriously cold even in the middle of August. In other states, you might find a can or two squeezed between the Cokes and Pepsis. But in Texas, Dr. Pepper gets its own altar. The fountain drink at the burger joint always has a dedicated Dr. Pepper tap. Sometimes two. That's not an accident. That's civic planning. But nowhere is the devotion clearer than at the Dr. Pepper Museum in Waco, a place that can only be described as a fizzy pilgrimage site. Here, you'll find displays of ancient bottles, vintage signage, and the kind of merchandise that makes you wonder if you really do need a Dr. Pepper-themed necktie. There are photo ops with enormous replica cans, and at least one solemn hallway where guests are encouraged to contemplate the glory of the 23 flavors in respectful silence. School groups visit for field trips. Grown adults pose for selfies in front of a wall of memorabilia. Some visitors, moved by the spirit of syrup, even leave offerings. An empty can, a heartfelt thank you note, or maybe just a deep, reverent sigh. Of course, it's not just about nostalgia. Dr. Pepper is woven into the fabric of Texas life. Every community festival, parade, and high school football game features the drink by the gallon. Some families keep a stash hidden in the fridge. For special occasions, which somehow includes every Sunday and any day the temperature rises above 80 degrees. Dr. Pepper floats, vanilla ice cream crowned with a foamy pour, are a beloved tradition, served up at county fairs and backyard cookouts, usually with the proud declaration that it's better than root beer, and that's a fact. Ask a Texan how they feel about Dr. Pepper, and you're liable to get a passionate monologue about childhood road trips, grandmother's secret punch recipe, or that one summer when a neighbor claimed to know the real secret ingredient. It's chili powder, but you didn't hear it from me. People have strong opinions about the best way to drink it. Over crushed ice, straight from the glass bottle, or, if you're feeling especially historical, hot with a squeeze of lemon, the way advertisements once suggested during Texas winters. No one ever admits to actually liking it that way. But it's a point of pride that they could if they wanted to. Even the state's cultural icons get in on the act. Celebrities and musicians post photos with their favorite can. Local diners feature Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce, Dr. Pepper cake, and, in some daring cases, Dr. Pepper marinated brisket. It's not a stunt, it's tradition. And if you even hint at preferring a rival soda, you're liable to be disinvited from Thanksgiving dinner. There's a comfort in this kind of devotion, a sense that no matter how weird the world gets, you can always count on a cold Dr. Pepper and a Texan willing to defend it with alarming intensity. In a state that's famously proud of its independence and originality, Dr. Pepper is the perfect symbol. Unique, slightly misunderstood, and entirely unconcerned with what the rest of the country thinks. So, if you ever find yourself in Waco, standing in the hallowed halls of the Dr. Pepper Museum, take a moment, soak it all in, pay your respects, and as you leave, maybe whisper a gentle thank you for the flavor, for the history, and yes, for quietly removing the opium. Because in Texas, Dr. Pepper isn't just a soda. It's the taste of home, bottled with pride and served with a knowing wink. And as you finish your last sip, you realize this was never just about soda. It's about how humans will always chase a miracle cure, even if it fizzes. Dr. Pepper survived its narcotic youth to become a global icon. Proof that good branding beats common sense every time. Step back for a moment and look at the arc of Dr. Pepper's story. What started as an overworked pharmacist's midnight experiment in a dusty Texas pharmacy wound up a mainstay in refrigerators and gas stations across the planet. Along the way, it was a headache cure, a pick-me-up, an alleged digestive aid, and, for a brief but glorious period, a not-so-subtle way to self-medicate in public. Its history is a timeline of American optimism and audacity, always with a dash of chaos. Think about it. Dr. Pepper is the world's fizziest time capsule. Every bottle contains the optimism of a frontier town, the freewheeling spirit of Victorian medicine, and the stubborn creativity that keeps people tinkering with flavors long after midnight. When you drink Dr. Pepper, you're taking part in a ritual that's as old as humanity, finding hope in a bottle, preferably one with bubbles and a vague promise to restore vigor. It's a testament to how little people really change. For centuries, we've searched for shortcuts to happiness, elixirs, tonics, tablets, and, eventually, sodas. We wanted to be smarter, livelier, more interesting at parties. Dr. Pepper just happened to show up at the right moment, dressed as a doctor and tasting like sweet possibility. The wild part? It actually worked. If not for our health, then for our sense of wonder and community. The legend grew because Dr. Pepper never tried to be what it wasn't. It embraced its weirdness. 23 secret flavors, a name that sounded like a house call, and enough mythos to keep soda scientists up at night. It leaned into the mystery, letting people argue about prune juice and flavor number 12 instead of actually solving the puzzle. It became a drink you had to explain, defend, or at least tell a story about. Trust me, you'd say. Just try it. And then you'd watch someone's eyebrows shoot up after their first sip. Over the years, Dr. Pepper inspired fierce loyalty, regional pride, and enough family feuds to fill a Texas courthouse. In some places, it's a way to say I'm not like the others. In others, it's just what you reach for when you need comfort that's slightly more adventurous than the average cola. The brand outlived trends, outsmarted fads, and managed to survive multiple attempts at caffeine-free versions, none of which, mercifully, lasted very long. The legacy, though, isn't in the bottle. It's in the way Dr. Pepper turned the act of drinking soda into a miniature adventure. It's in the people who built museums to celebrate it, who write odes to it online, who argue in barbecue lines about whether it's better on ice, in a float, or straight from the glass bottle. It's in the jokes, I forgive you for the opium thing, and in the winks shared by everyone who's in on the secret. Even the oddest bits of history have their place. Dr. Pepper's tale is a reminder that progress is rarely neat, that the things we treasure often begin as glorious accidents, and that people will always believe in something that tastes good and makes life feel lighter, even for a moment. So, here's to Dr. Pepper. Part medicine, part myth, part rebellion, all fizz. Raise your glass, preferably chilled, definitely not caffeine-free, and toast to the miracle. Cures that didn't quite cure, but made history anyway. Because in the end, it's not about the ingredients, it's about the stories, the stubborn hope, and the strange, sweet alchemy of chasing happiness. One weird, wonderful sip at a time. And so, as the last fizz of carbonation fades into silence, you drift away from Waco, Texas, from the wooden counters and bubbling beakers of a man who accidentally invented both a soda and a lifestyle choice. You've survived the 19th century's medical free-for-all, where doctors prescribed whiskey for nerves and morphine for boredom, and where a carbonated narcotic tonic could earn the title refreshing. Lying there now, in your clean sheets, maybe take a moment to appreciate how far we've come. You have Wi-Fi instead of typhoid. Your caffeine comes in measured doses, not hidden behind flavor number 9. And if your drink claims to restore vitality, it probably just means it's high in sugar, not that it's laced with Victorian sleep aids. Because here's the thing about Dr. Pepper and the world it came from. Everyone back then was chasing comfort. They didn't have Netflix, energy drinks, or therapy apps. They had bubbling syrups, faith in chemistry, and a blind hope that maybe, just maybe, this one bottle would make life feel a little less heavy. So tonight, as you tuck into your soft pillow, think of Charles Alderton and his midnight experiments, the fizz, the hope, the madness. Think of the people who lined up at that dusty counter, trading nickels for a sip of something that promised energy, happiness, or at least a good story. Because history isn't just war and kings. It's also the small, weird victories. The ones that start as a chemical accident and end as comfort in a can. And maybe that's the point. Every age has its coping mechanisms. Ours just come with fewer narcotics and more brand loyalty. So close your eyes. Let the bubbles fade. The experiments are over. The soda's gone, flat, and you, thankfully, are not. Sleep well, time traveler. Tomorrow's world still runs on caffeine, just with fewer side effects.